Over the summer, I pushed myself to do something I'd never done before. Learn a new instrument completely on my own in 30 days. I spent my summer on an island in the middle of Lake Michigan, so needless to say, I had a lot of free time. I practiced for 1 hour every day for a month to see just how much I could improve. But I didn't want some boring guitar or piano. Everyone's played those. Everyone plays the guitar. Everyone knows someone who plays the piano. I wanted to do something weird and quirky and different, and that just happened to be the banjo. So I documented the whole process from never touching a banjo in my life
to performing an entire song at a public open mic.
And this video is going to show you how it went. So if you're watching this video right now, that means I actually did it. I actually learned how to play the banjo for an entire month, but right now I haven't done any of that. Right now I have never touched the banjo before in my life. They say you can't get good at anything without lots of practice. There's no such thing as shortcuts. There's no such thing as shortcuts. The goal of this is to figure out how many shortcuts we can take. I'm gonna be doing it all online. I don't really know anybody here on the island who knows how to play banjo, and it's easier for me to practice on my own. Shout out Joff Lowson. So the song I'm going to be learning to play is called Cripple Creek. I don't know why it's called that. Something about a place in Virginia. But the point is it sounds catchy and it sounds not like a beginner song, which is good for me to make me look better. I'm going to be practicing this is the banjo. I'm going to be practicing the banjo. I like to practice banjo an hour a day. I will be following tips online. Hopefully, at the end, I will have learned how to play a song. This is currently all I know. So yeah, that's all I know how to play right now. As to why I decided to learn the banjo of all things. So starting out the gate, I needed to learn the basics, obviously. Like I mentioned, I found this website by Joff Lowson to help me practice Cripple Creek. And luckily, these videos were specifically geared towards people who never played the banjo before, which made it easy enough for me, someone who's never played before, to follow him. Also, scrolling through his website, I'd never seen a man more in love with an instrument. It's kind of beautiful. So Joff taught me the basics, which I'll abbreviate for you here. Like the guitar, the banjo can be played a couple different ways, such as plucking or strumming. But unlike the guitar, in the way I played it was by finger picking, which involves wearing little rings with picks on them on your thumb, index, and middle finger. It gives you the ability to play multiple notes at once or a bunch of notes really fast. That's what gives the banjo that iconic cascading, twanging sound. So the banjo itself has 5 strings, and there's actually 2 things that make them unique. For one, the 5th string doesn't run all the way up the neck. It actually stops halfway up, or 4/3 of the way up. And it's the same type of string as the 4th string, but it's shortened so that it can be tuned to play extra high notes that the other strings wouldn't be able to at that length. The other unique thing about the banjo strings, which I just loved, is how thin they all are. So after practicing for an hour, my fingers, particularly the middle one, hurt really bad. Like pressing against it over and over and sliding it up and down is kind of like pressing the pad of your finger on like a dull knife blade. The first week of learning how to play the instrument and a song on it at the same time was a lot less frustrating than I thought. Now, don't get me wrong, I couldn't play it very fast or accurately, but going from never playing the banjo in my life to being able to kind of play what sounded like a song in a week was pretty satisfying, yeah. After a couple days, I thought I had the notes down enough to work on speed, which was a mistake because I ended up working on speed and notes at the same time, which was arguably less productive than if I just devoted week 1 to fingering. But heading into week 2 overall, I was feeling pretty optimistic. All right, so it has officially been 1 week of practicing the banjo, and in that time I have learned a lot. So this is what I can play right now. So I still can't really get it consistently, but with some practicing I can get up to like around 100 BPM, but I want to play it faster. Week 1 was just getting the core notes down. Week 2, at least for just right now, my plan is For week 2, working on the more fancy, like banjo-y parts, because there's a lot of things like I would like to ideally get to a point where I can play this very fast with all of the correct, I don't know, intonations or all the specific stuff. That's the goal right now. I think I'm going to be aiming for early July just because I'll hopefully have it done by then, and so this video can get out in not 2 years. Practicing this every day has been a test of will. I definitely see improvement every day, though. It's very rewarding, actually, for an instrument as stupid as this. Yeah, I'm going to practice right after this, then practice the next day. And the next day, 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 and the next day. So yeah, I still have a long ways to go. Starting week 2, I was a little cocky. I felt the melody was a bit too simple, so I found some videos that teach more advanced techniques, which I tried to incorporate into what I already knew. They don't really add much to the song, but they provide some extra textures and make it sound less monotonous. And because they were new techniques, that ended up being the main thing I worked on this week, on top of note accuracy and speed. I was still having trouble playing accurately, but there was noticeable improvement this week, which kept me going, though not as much as the previous week. During week 2, tangible progress became less apparent, and after playing the same song over and over and over and over, not only was I making more little mistakes, but it was getting more frustrating. So this week was harder. I didn't get everything that I wanted to get done. I was working a lot of shifts at both of my jobs. So I was working a lot this week, and so I only had like an hour or two of free time in like the whole day since I woke up and went to sleep. So my practices averaged around 10, 15, 20 minutes, which is, obviously under the hour I'm aiming for. And I'm not seeing progress as fast as I would like to. The advanced techniques that I tried using were pretty easy. I found out there is no definitive version of Cripple Creek. Everyone has their own slight rendition of it. So it's kind of hard to jump from one tutorial to the next because they all have different ways of playing the song. The only constant that I feel like I can really work towards is speed, because a big part of playing the banjo is how fast you can play it. After week 1, there was obviously a huge jump. But after this week, maybe it's because I haven't been practicing as much, or I haven't been in it as much, or when I'm practicing, I'm usually tired at the end of the day. It's frustrating. I mean, there's times where I end the practice and I'm just mad. I really want to try and get an hour each day. I really, really want to try to hit at least an hour each day. That's a big goal of mine this week. But I'm feeling hopeful, and I think this week will be better than this past week. Let's get to practicing. By this point, I had the melody pretty much down, so all that was left was polishing and speed. I was using the metronome every practice now, trying to get a faster and faster BPM. But this created a new problem. Focusing so much on speed, on top of playing nothing but the same song for 2 weeks straight, got me really in my head about the notes I was supposed to play, even though I knew them. It was like I forgot the song I just learned. Then, about midway through the week, I watched a video that changed everything. It gave me the best, simplest piece of advice possible.
The last thing we see is not to think about it. Don't think about it. If you're trying to get faster, learn a song through and through with the proper techniques where your hand needs to be in the right position. Memorize every part of the song, and then as you play that over and over again, what you're going to do is you're going to find that speed is naturally going to come.
Just don't think about it. Stop thinking note to note and just play the song. And I know that sounds stupid, and maybe it is, but it helped a lot. Also, you might be wondering why I'm in a bedroom now. That's because I visited home for reasons we'll get into in a second. Okay. Week 3 in the books. I'm feeling better. I feel like I'm definitely improving more. I'm getting faster. I feel like my highest like consistent tempo right now is 160 or 70, but I can play 180. I even played 200 a little bit. My arm gets tired really easily, so I've been having to take breaks in between playing. I'm feeling really optimistic about this last week. I feel like I've made a lot of progress, and I feel like I'm really starting to enjoy playing. I've been trying to play earlier in the day instead of in the evenings every time, which I still did a couple times this week. I practiced 1 hour a couple times this week, but not as much as I wanted to. What else? Oh yeah, callus check. My middle finger is getting super callous. Note this is focusing. It's the tip of it's completely numb. It's only when I press down on it, like I can feel like kind of a sharp pain in parts, which I've been told is good. It actually is making playing a lot easier, especially when I'm sliding down the strings. The finger callousing over is great because it doesn't hurt like hell anymore. Like the first week it just hurt a lot, and that's partially why I've probably been getting better, is because that pain isn't there anymore. The best advice I have gotten so far was from the video that told me just not think about it. If you see someone playing an instrument that you've never like played before or have an experience with, it is mind-blowing how they're able to play those many notes at once. It just is. It's like how on earth is this person able to move their fingers that fast or know this many notes or whatever? Dude, muscle memory is just such a cheat code. Like it actually is. If you just play it over and over and over again, your body just does it for you. What I'm learning is there really is no shortcut. There is no fast way to learn. I mean, if you have to care. That's a really big takeaway for me. I'm learning a lot about myself, which is weird because this is the dumbest instrument on the planet I could have chosen. I want to get to a point where I can play consistently fast at the speed I want, and then I want to work on not looking at the strings. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I made a lot of progress this week. I'm really excited to see what will happen in week 4, which is a week away. This is something I haven't really touched on so far, but it ended up being a pretty big problem. There was a planned family trip in the middle of this whole thing. I know this is such a first world problem. I'm aware of that. But I was going. I had no real say in the matter. And so I looked into all the airline's rules, and it was Allegiant. So pretty quickly, I realized there was no way the Banjo would survive the trip. So I was forced to take a full week off from playing. I was really worried I'd lose all my progress. Like, what if I got back and only remembered half the notes, or I couldn't play as fast? Had I been practicing for long enough to retain the song? All I could do was wait until I could reunite with the banjo and try to play again. Okay. It has been 7 days since I last played the banjo. This is the first time I have attempted to play it since then. Just gonna give it a shot. No metronome, just Cripple Creek. Incredibly surprisingly, it's pretty much all been retained. Like, it really does not feel like it has been a week since I practiced. Obviously, I didn't improve, but I didn't, like, regress. I thought I was worried I was going to regress, like, a week maybe or something, but that doesn't seem to be the case, which is nice. My callus on my middle finger, I was, like, picking at it all week, is now just, like, completely numb. I can't feel where I'm pressing. I don't feel like I can be as precise anymore. I'm kind of just relying more on the muscle memory of where I have been putting it. Wow. That was a lot better than I thought. Each day I do feel like I'm getting better. I feel like I am getting better at the instrument. It's definitely starting to kind of plateau, but it's really inspiring me to pursue other instruments that I actually care about or think sound good in any capacity. Next Thursday marks a month. Marks 4 weeks of practicing the banjo. So right now I can play consistently at like 180. I can play at 200, but it's not consistent. My base goal is if I can play the song consistently at 200 BPM, then we're good. I'd like to get higher. I think it sounds better if you can play as fast as you possibly can, but 200 is kind of where I'm shooting for right now. And shoot for it I did. Getting up to that speed, it became hard to play for an hour straight, so my hand would get all cramped, and I ended up taking more breaks during the practicing. In the end, I never ended up getting to a consistent BPM. I ended the 4 weeks of practice playing around a solid 160 and an iffy 180. I also wasn't able to play without looking at my hands, which is probably more of a confidence thing, which in that case is definitely going to take more than a month to get over. I got back to the island with 4 weeks of practicing the banjo now under my belt, and I finally found the location in time to perform. The Harbor Bodega, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. I didn't know how many people would be there, but I was gonna perform regardless. So it had been the 30 days. There was a couple day break in between when I finished practicing and when the performance actually was. So I was a little out of practice. I ended up doing some polishing before leaving, but I needed someone to actually film the performance, and luckily my friend Owen, who shoots live music, was in town, so that worked out really, really nicely. Since the beginning, I knew I would be performing in front of people and was never really nervous about it. I think I was more focused on playing every day and making sure the video would turn out good, but that last practice session, it hit me. I was getting in my head, which caused me stupid mistakes, which got me more in my head. All I could think about was that I had to perform an instrument I barely knew how to play in front of a crowd of people. Now, I had already done this for 4 years in marching band, but this time I was by myself. So I get there. It's a patio downtown. There's like 4 tables and some speakers. Not the biggest crowd, but it's still strangers watching me play.
I just have auto white balance.
But just when I start to feel better about the crowd, the host gets up to play and is like some veteran, actual musician, professional guy, which isn't great for me. The guy with barely 30 hours of one song is now going to look even worse. But then he ends, calls me up, and next thing I know, I am sitting in front of a bunch of people with the stupidest instrument in the world in my lap.
So Nick, everyone.
Okay, so I started learning this instrument 30 days ago. I've never played the banjo before June, and I'm doing this after 30 days of practicing. I only know one song, so I'm only playing one song. So I hope you guys like it. This song is called Cripple Creek. Here, yeah, some people know it. I hope I'm able to meet your expectations. Thank you. How's it?
It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but I actually did it. I set out to do what I started over a month ago. The crowd was super nice and asked for a few encores, and then that was that. Even though I didn't hit the goals I was setting for myself, like the 200 BPM or playing without looking, I'm still really proud of myself for really sticking to it. The fact that I was able to accomplish all of that on my own with some digital help from Joff is pretty cool. Learning the basics, taking it slow and steady, setting aside time for practicing, learning from my mistakes, those are the real skills I walked away with. And I didn't even know I could do that. In the end, I ended up learning way more about myself than the banjo. And maybe that was the real Cripple Creek all along. Thanks for watching.